all we say to America is be true to what you said on paper. If I lived in China or even Russia or any totalitarian country, maybe I could understand some of these illegal injunctions. Maybe I could understand the denial of certain basic First Amendment privileges because they haven't committed themselves to that over there. But somewhere I read of the freedom of assembly. Somewhere I read of the freedom of speech. Somewhere I read of the freedom of press. Somewhere I read that the greatness of America is the right to protest far right. And so just as I say we aren't going to let any dogs or water hoses turn us around, we aren't going to let any injunction turn us around. Well, I don't know what will happen now. We've got some difficult days ahead. But it really doesn't matter with me now because I've been to the mountaintop. I don't mind. Like anybody, I would like to live a long life. Longevity has its place. But I'm not concerned about that now. I just want to do God's will. And He's allowed me to go up to the mountain. And I've looked over and I've seen the promised land. I may not get there with you, but I want you to know tonight that we as a people will get to the promised land. So I'm happy tonight. I'm not worried about anything. I'm not fearing any man. Mine eyes have seen the glory of the coming of the Lord.
Welcome to the Gilchrist Experience. As you see, that was edited, and that was the best thing I could find on YouTube. I have the pure version. I couldn't get hold of that one. But the whole emphasis of Martin speaking his last sermon, as if you saw it straight without the added addition, the theatrics of the music and so forth, if you heard his pure sentiment, how he knew he was about to die. He foresaw his future. He had been to the mountaintop. He had seen God. God had told him it was time to go. All right? Now, you as a minister, Reverend McCall, now, how does that hit you?
Well, the legacy between Martin Luther King, you know, he was our modern-day prophet.
Amen.
In that aspect. He foresaw these things to be able to happen before it transpired. Mm-hmm. And God called him home as a time that he needed to do as such during that era. He never knew that what he was born to do to be able to strike a moment in anything that he did in his life. He didn't really want to be a preacher. That wasn't his mindset to be. But God wanted him to be able to fulfill his destiny. And usually the apple doesn't fall from the tree if your father is a preacher. So he was destined down that road as such. But he never knew that anything that every march that he had, every speech that he ever talked, he never knew that what was going to strike the moment to be able to be an agent of change. He never knew that. He never knew that, but he just kept on going on so he can be able to bring some kind. Rocks was thrown at him, water holes, was beaten, transpired, bombed, all kinds of things transpired. But he did what Jesus did, like Jesus was wrong when he was going towards the cross. Right. And they beat him and they whooped him all night long, and he just said, "Forgive them, for they know not they do." So he took the Jesus approach to it, and that's why God spoke to him, and that's why he saw Jesus being the prophet that he is.
You weren't even alive when he was born.
I wasn't even a thought when Martin Luther King was around at all.
All right.
I wasn't even thought. I wasn't even thought of. But the impact that he has now, from Jullian being 16 years old to me now being 30 years old.
You're 30. I thought
yes,
you're 29.
29, but 20. I'm in my 30th year.
I was a year younger. I was 27 when Martin died.
Wow.
In 68.
Wow.
So you speak like you were right there. I mean, you have that.
Well, the impact that he has across the world. I mean, there's people all over the world that they don't know any other African American leader but Martin Luther King.
That's right.
And for him to be able to be known and make an impact for anything, there's young people that don't know anything about us. People think that that's the only person that did anything for black people was Martin Luther King, and that's not true.
That's right.
There were so many others that made the foundation. There were so many black inventors that created things that we use today. That made an impact. And during that time when Martin Luther King was making strides, that did different things. There was Medgar Evers. There were other leaders that did things that for history. People think that it's just Rosa Parks that was sat on the bus. There were other people that did it before her. It's just that you never knew what you were striking the moment to be able to be an agent of more so change.
Well, you're true enough. See, now there's Reverend McCall. Now we're following Reverend. Now we're following Reverend Jackson, who was a disciple of Martin Luther King. I mean, for me, an old statesman like myself, an elder, Martin was. I mentioned to you. I mean, that was a Christ-like spirit I knew at that time. In the '60s, I mean, we were much more in the church then than we are now. That to me was my best friend over the, my pastor had just passed, as far as I'm concerned, when Martin was taken. So that hit me very dead in the heart. I'm sure it hit a lot of people hard, but that was like the end of hope. He was the last resort. And he was just stuck out and sort of stuck up for us in all situations, showed us how to be Christ-like, how to take a blow, how to turn the other cheek. I mean, it was ridiculous for me, because I couldn't understand it. I couldn't understand how you could sit there and let somebody beat on you like that. Like I was 19 in 1960, right? And they had just started the Freedom Bus rides. And you sit at a counter and have somebody beat you up because you don't. Man, I couldn't understand that. And I didn't understand the South at the time. And it was really difficult for me. Because we didn't have the publications that you have now. You didn't see the trends of people. You didn't know. You knew what you knew in your hood, and that was it. But today you've got everything available to you. The internet exposes you to the planet. But you young folks, I can call you young folks, I have the blessing of being around Reverend Sharpton. Reverend Sharpton, I'm the same age as Jesse Jackson. I got Jesse by 6 months. So Reverend Sharpton was another junior statesman at the time, and now he's a well-developed kingpin and talking to governors and presidents and so forth. And let's talk about what happened Monday with the governor coming. And you marching down the street next to the governor at 17.
Yeah.
Look at you, man.
I know. It was cool. It was a great experience, man. I remember when I was younger, I always dreamed about doing something like that.
Yeah.
I always pray to God saying, man, hope I get that opportunity, hope I get that opportunity. And before I met Reverend Sharpton, I was an intern for a judge. And one day I had something in my heart telling me to go to Brooklyn, House of the Lord Church.
Okay.
And I went there, and I was ushering for the families whose sons were killed by police officers. And I hear a loud voice, a powerful voice, and I see someone, like a skinny guy, strut in. And it was Sharpton, and my eyes lit up. I said, oh my God. I said, that was the feeling. And then I saw him go upstairs, and he gave a speech. And I said, man, I didn't know he could speak that good. And I said, I'm waiting for him to go to the bathroom downstairs.
Yep.
I'm gonna wait, just wait. And I said, you know what, I'm going to pretend like I had a phone call from my mother.
Mm-hmm.
And I went down the stairs and I bumped into him purposefully. And I said, Reverend Sharpton, I was very impressed with your oratory, sir.
Mm-hmm.
And he looked at me like, oh, okay. Like, who was he to tell me that he's impressed? And I was speaking to Rachel, and I wanted to work with his organization so bad that I went there the next day.
Mm-hmm.
And I continued, and I badgered him, and I finally got the opportunity to speak at the NAN Saturday rally.
Yeah.
And from then on, man, my life has changed immensely. But just having that faith and believing that I can have that opportunity to be there and chasing after it is what gave me, or has brought me where I am today, and bringing me to where I'm going to be tomorrow.
All right, you know what I would do is show you guys a little of yourself Monday. You know, I got out there a little bit in the cold. I don't know how cold it was. What was it, about 18 degrees?
Yes, about 18 degrees.
Feels like 18 degrees in here.
But we had the governor, the mayor, and Reverend Sharpton marching down 7th Avenue, 20 blocks.
That's right. in the
Fighting
cold.
for a 15-hour
minimum wage.
$15.
minimum wage. All right, just run the video on the little march that we saw or participated in.
Here's brother. He got something for you. Like CD with Dr. King. Excellent. I did record with Dr. King. He got something for you. Thank you, brother. All right.
All right. Go ahead. Ready? Yellow, come on. Let's
Get your shots, guys. Guys, get the rope out of the way. Rope out of the way. Looks like they're in prison. Guys, put the rope on the ground. On the ground. Put part on the ground. Don't we understand? Take the shot. Okay, guys. Let's move on. Let's move on. Let's move on.
No, you got to. It's not finished. Turn the sound up.
We can now say about Martin Luther King today, even those that may disagree on one or two points politically or tactically, whether it be powerful men or people that are not powerful, that we can come together. It's a wonderful testimony to Dr. King that he could bring everybody together.
That's right. That's right. Thank you. And we're standing also for an end to violence in our communities. Hey, Jen.
Well, that was a cold day. Kevin, you were out there both of you were out there in the front line there.
Yeah, I mean, it was a busy day before we actually marched. We had a King Day policy forum.
3 hours.
3 hours of elected officials coming to give an update on what they're doing to be like King and what have they done. So we had every New York State elected official there, from 2 U.S. senators, the Speaker of the City Council, the Speaker of the State, the Assembly, and the Senate. We had also the Brooklyn District Attorney, the Manhattan District Attorney.
That's right.
So we had every powerful elected officials there at the House of Justice on Monday. And everyone,
and the mayor, the governor.
The mayor, the governor. It was good to see both of them in the same room, because, you know, it's been a little controversy between both of them.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's been a lot of controversy between the mayor and the governor. The mayor has been talking about him, about the governor, about talking about policy and about homelessness, and just really political prostituting the issue. On both fronts. So what better time on Martin Luther King Day to come and bring unity? I only think that only one person can do that, and that was Reverend Al Sharpton,
to get them to walk 20 blocks
to get them to walk 20 blocks. I was talking to the governor's detail, and he told me he worked for the governors in the past for the last 17 years, and he had never walked with any governor in a march. And so it was historic for him to do that, being that he worked for that. And they marched the whole time. You know, they didn't
I mean, it was
stop,
a fast pace.
but it was very fast paced. And they were talking. They had the opportunity to talk. I was right there listening. And they were talking with Reverend Sharp. They were talking about Donald Trump. They were talking about Hillary Clinton.
Really? They were carrying on a conversation?
So there was a conversation that transpired before they departed at the end of the rally. But the significance of the rally was about the living wage and the minimum wage, bringing it to $15 an hour.
You think it's going to happen?
I think it's going to happen because there's a lot of pressure and on the powers that be, and I think that you know, it's just degrading for an airport worker or a restaurant worker to only make $2.10 an hour. That is more degrading. That's not. You can't live off of that at all.
Those are for the porters,
you know,
though.
but it's for the porters. And the bag handlers. But also in the restaurant, when you go out to eat, Applebee's, Olive Garden, they make $4.10. They make a little bit more. So most people live off of their tips. So it brought consciousness to me as a preacher that always going out to eat to make sure I tip the waiter a very significant amount, because they don't make that much, and that's what they live off, and they look according to that every week on that aspect.
And you know, in the restaurant business, oftentimes that tip is divvied up because the kitchen help gets a portion of that tip as well in some restaurants. So it's important for us to understand that $15 is not a living wage for anybody in New York. It could be in other areas of the country, but it's nothing that you can substantially live on in New York when rents are going from $1,400 for a studio, $1,500 for a studio, $3,000, $4,000. I've seen apartments for $7,000 a month. And as development comes and sweeps across the outer boroughs, from Manhattan to the Bronx to Brooklyn, everything is going up. And it's imperative that this bill passes, and passes quickly. They're talking about rolling it out over a period of 2 years. But that really can't help people today. You can't wait 2 years to get $15 an hour. You need it now. And for the governor to even admit that some of the state workers were not making $15 an hour, that's egregious, that people working for the state not making $15 an hour. So this push, statewide.
There was a man living in his car that worked for sanitation.
I've talked with Board of Ed workers who are living in shelters.
That's right. Yeah.
with their
Board of
family.
Ed
Board of
workers
Ed. Guy
living
came
in
in my office. He
shelters.
was looking for an apartment. He says living in
Oh,
the
yeah,
shelter. He's been
right,
working for the Board of Ed for years. I don't know in what capacity, but housing is critical.
That's right.
As a
And
city worker, don't you have preference on something?
not really,
Not
because
really.
Housing?
in affordable housing, it's like a lottery.
Correct.
Ah,
You
You
have
see,
to apply.
and you apply,
right.
but you're applying along with hundreds
Thousands
and
of
hundreds
others.
of other
Right.
people
Yeah.
for one given building.
Right.
Right.
So, and the mayor has said that he was going to push for, I think, 10,000 more
10,000
units
more units.
of affordable housing over the next couple of years. But it's going to take time to get the site, draw up the plans for it, have the contractors come in, put up the building, and in the same sense, how many black and Latino workers are going to get jobs on those sites? You see, because the plumbers union, my wife's brother was a plumber, and he endured a lot of prejudice in the plumbers union, even a physical attack by a guy because he didn't want a black guy on the site. This is another problem with the labor unions in that they don't want people of color coming in.
They've got a 20-year head start on us, the Republicans in New York here. We have to realize that we have to deal with 8 years of Giuliani and then
That's right.
12 years of Bloomberg.
Right.
That's 20 solid years of Republican control in this city. So everybody's got their work cut out for them.
You know, I was looking at statistics. So Ashley told me to look at gun violence, right, and the issues or the reasons why it occurs. And you know, there's a lot of legislation based on mental illness, but that only increases it by a small percentage.
Correct.
One of the biggest reasons why gun violence occurs in places like Chicago or in Philly or New York in the inner city is because of the opportunities that are there or the lack thereof,
Right.
causing people to fight. When you give people less money, they need more things. So what do? They go out there with the gun and they shoot each other.
Right.
And that's a huge issue. And when we're looking at the opportunities that are being taken away from our people, I'm forced to recall the Oscars, right? which is disgusting.
Well, that's a luxury item, right?
Yeah, but the thing is, National Action Network is boycotting the Oscars as well. So if we're looking at films like Straight Outta Compton and Creed, and we're saying, well, I guess they weren't that good. That's not true because they were recognized by the Oscars, not the whole film, but the white counterparts of those films. So if we're looking at a film like Creed, the director wasn't given a nod, the actor wasn't given a nod,
Right.
the film wasn't given a nod, but who was given a nod?
Old Rocky.
Sylvester Stallone.
Old Rocky.
And there's nothing that's bad about him. I'm not saying that he's a bad actor, but I mean, come on. And if we're looking at
That young
straight-
kid
You
carried
think
that
the mafia's
film.
got
Yeah.
anything?
He carried that.
But if we're looking at Straight Outta Compton too, right? It wasn't a bad film, Straight Outta Compton, but
I disagree.
No, no, but I would say this too.
I boycotted Straight Outta Compton.
No, I
Yeah,
understand.
I mean,
I know.
that's not a way to be black.
No, but I understand. What I'm saying is this. They didn't even recognize any of the black parts of it, but they recognized 2 white screenwriters.
Correct. And that's
And-
that's the issue.
And
It's-
that's the it's
They
it's
have
crazy
been writing
because
scripts and writing hip hop. Hip hop, West Coast music, hip hop. Those weren't black guys that came up with that stuff.
Correct.
Those are white people.
and it shows that
All right.
in Straight Outta Compton.
and I wanted to-
Promoting violence.
And I wanted to say
Promoting
another,
violence,
and if we're
mind
looking
you.
at violence as well, right?
Well,
so,
remember about the comparison I gave you, Denzel winning an Oscar for Training
Yeah.
Training
Days
Day.
instead of Malcolm?
Malcolm.
yeah, but I wanted,
They
I
want
wanted
to profile us as villains.
But I wanted to make sure I get this
Not
this
heroes.
point across as well. If we're looking at going past and looking at how people should be black, right? Selma is an excellent example.
Excellent
And it was
movie.
snubbed
Okay.
completely.
Oh,
David
yeah.
Oyelowo wasn't given and not at all.
Absolutely.
And he completely encompassed the character or the man that was Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. And I said, what's the issue here? What is the result? What is the stem of it? And you look at the people who are voting. 94% white.
Right.
Always been that way.
73% male. The average age of people born in the 1950s.
Right.
Who don't even watch current stuff.
And that's a great point because when they were looked at or their comments, they were just basing their
On old
votes
stuff.
on people who were celebrities. They weren't basing it on the actual product. And that's a constant thing that is happening. When we're looking at women who wake up 4 o'clock in the morning, work tirelessly and get paid so much little based on, that's not based on the work that they're doing. It's not. We're constantly getting underhanded.
Well,
and we're tired of it.
I'm going to take you even further. Michael Jackson in 1991 came to the House of Justice, and he told us then, I was a little kid then. I was born Gilchrist, then, but I was a kid. He told us that the industry didn't care about us then because the things that he was experiencing that he had to do. In 2008, Tyler Perry told us how the industry was. So he had to create his own company because Hollywood would not accept him at all. Until they wanted to change him, so they said, let me put him in a little movie. So they put him in a movie, but they created that. So he said, no, I'm going back to what I know, which was his plays. Tyler Perry, not only just Tyler Perry, but Oprah did as well. Oprah said that she was not participating in it. They kicked her off of this of network TV and put her, and she had to create her own network for herself. For people of color because of some of the fact that you've seen this going on time and time again. And it's not just in the Oscars, but it's in music. Every year you have to fight for that kind of thing. That's why we have the BET Awards. That's why we have the Soul Train Awards. Because these are the things. That's why we have the NAACP Image Awards. That's why last year we had the Triumph Awards for National Action Network. Because we have to create our own culture and not depend on the status that be to create it for us. Because we are the majority of the world.
The youth here, now seeing, I came up behind Nat King Cole. All right. Now, he was a swooner, and we taught nothing but gentleness and love. And the way we got over is to be cool, to be a gentleman. Now today, you cuss somebody out and call their mama a hoe and all this other ridiculous stuff. And what happened to the gentleman? Huh? Where are the gentlemen? I don't see any gentlemen coming out of Compton. That was an affront to being black for me.
Well, I don't agree.
Well, of course not.
No, well, not of course
you're young.
not. Well,
you don't understand the way of old.
If I look at
how difficult
someone
it was like in the 60s coming up, and the 50s.
Yeah. If I look at, well, I don't like to generalize things like that. So there are certain rappers who are positive influences. So much so, I spoke to you before the break about it. Kendrick Lamar, who was brought by President Obama because he loved his music so much.
I remember that one. Okay.
So Kendrick Lamar has, I told you the two examples of the two songs. So one song is called You, and it speaks about, I'm sure a lot of African Americans deal with, I used to, about a lot of the pressure that we face as a community and also the disgust we feel. But it's carried by another song called All Right. And it's saying something I always quote about Khalil Gibran. And it's that your pain is the breaking of the shell that encloses the understanding.
Okay.
It is bitter potion which the physician within you heals your sick self. Therefore, trust the physician and drink his remedy in silence and tranquility. So that's the basis of All Right. So it's saying that, that the sky can fall, that my mother can pass, but as long as God got me, we gonna be all right. And that's just a constant theme. So, and then we're looking at, and that's what I'm saying, is that we don't want to. How many
like you are out there?
There are a ton. There are a ton.
Really?
But the thing is, the media doesn't portray us as much as other groups. We've had some of the highest graduate.
There's a reason why they don't.
And we've had some of the highest graduation rates. We're competing against whites all the time.
All right.
And that's the thing. Exactly. But it's increased exponentially. But it's still going to have to get a little higher as well. So when people are saying, oh, blacks are doing the wrong thing, or you have to look at how they're being portrayed. I am from New York City. I can have the ability, because of my great city, to connect to people from Chicago, Indiana. I've spoken to young people all across the country.
Let's be real. You're policed by your parents.
Huh?
You're policed by your parents. Okay?
All kids are.
No,
Wait.
The reason for your
I'm
success is the two people behind you, your birth parents.
No, I agree, but what I'm saying is this as well. When we're knocking down kids and we're saying that African Americans are making mistakes constantly, a lot of kids are doing that.
We all make mistakes.
And the thing is, as well, I wanted to make this point. I'm around positive kids all the time, and there's not really a two-sided part to this. Of course, there are negative influences, and of course, there are negative things, but we don't even shine the same light on the positive aspects. And I understand that a lot of the time, some kids face a lot of things, and they follow the negative crowd. But I'm not a part of that, and I want to make sure that that image is shown as well. So when I'm talking about generalizing in music, we're saying there's a lot of garbage music out there, and there's a lot of rap that's about N-words and B-words. But there's also a lot of music that's positive, trying to uplift the minds of African Americans as well.
Well, I brought up Nat King Cole because of the problem I see is that you weren't allowed to talk like that back in my day.
Right, but it's a difference. It's a difference now in terms of the music, and you're absolutely right. During your time, during my mother time, listen to Otis Redding, and to now, to you listening to all kinds of things that talk about your mama and downgrade us.
Right.
But it is a systemic problem that happens that is also connected to Hollywood, because Hollywood will want you to say these things and say that it was all right, and will give you the money to back it.
That's right.
You don't have no money at all. But if you're talking and downgrading one another, they will put more behind you.
Of course.
So you'll have a guy like Mos Def, and you have a guy like Talib Kweli, and you have a guy like Kendrick Lamar, and crazy as he is, you have a guy like Kanye West, of these people who talk about things that happen, but you have to really fund yourself.
Well, how about the Illuminati, being part of the Illuminati?
Yeah, this whole thing, this whole thing about the whole Illuminati and all these things.
Demonic spirit. I mean, it is demonic, half the music, right?
Well,
I think
that all music has a spirit. It's just how you invoke it.
Right.
You know, you can listen to a slow jam, and the slow jam can come off a certain way. You can listen to a fast song. We as a
gospel. Now you in the church now.
Gospel too. Gospel can. We're living in a day of time.
In the church.
But not only that, we're living in a day of time to where you don't even know what is gospel anymore.
Right.
You're living in a day of time where the hip hop. You know, Mary made a song that says, "The God is me," and they play that in the clubs now. So you don't know, you can't do that. But it's all about being in the now and what sells. That's what is really more.
Well, you're not going to hear an MF
sells.
in a gospel song.
You're not going to hear no cuss word in a gospel song.
Okay.
Well, I will pray you won't hear it at all. But it's just that you have to. Be more conscious of what your surroundings are and what you listen to. So if you listening to certain kinds of music, yes, it will invoke your spirit to do negative things. But you also have to be able to say what. I remember growing up, I knew that what music that my mother used to always play to get her through. Wake up everybody, there's no sleep in the bed. You know, those songs that helped her provide a roof over my head, that helped her, that encouraged her. There's no more encouraging music that is such. And if it is, as the ones that I named before, is not selling. It's not. They try to do something that that would stop them. Just recently, Tyrese had an album called Black Rose, and he was trying to sell his CD just like anybody else. He made a song talking about shame, talking about how shameful he was regarding his girlfriend and what he did to her, and they wouldn't even play it on mainstream radio, at all.
I used to hear it every morning on Steve Harvey, but everything is mathematics. Everything. From the creation forward, everything is mathematics. There's nothing that you can do or touch or see or even hear without mathematics. And why do I say that? We talk about the internet and the access.
Yeah.
That access is also a demon. You see, because the people that want to keep you ignorant and stupid are using the medium of the internet, Facebook, and everything else out there to push negative thought across the airwaves to our young people. And we have to understand that. When they were writing hip-hop and I'm going back, you look at the early albums of hip-hop from the West Coast, there were no black people on those albums. The rappers were black. The writers weren't black. They weren't promoted. Tyrese wants to push an album, and when you want to get into the game, quote unquote, you need to know the business, because if you don't control distribution, your product does not move.
That's it.
I sat with a number of black publishers years ago regarding the distribution of Essence Magazine, the Amsterdam News, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And I said, your problem is that the distribution of your product is controlled by people that don't look like you. Mm-hmm. And there was one man sitting in Jersey City who decided when Essence Magazine got on the newsstand. Mm-hmm. From the Caribbean to Europe. Mm. One man in Jersey City, all right? And I told them the things that they needed to do in order to enhance their business, they needed to take control of their distribution.
Right.
Sam Cooke was the first entertainer to control his music because they were ripping him off. Mariah Carey is being ripped off by Sony.
That's right.
All right. I knew the guy that wrote all the contracts for Sony years ago. Mm-hmm. He'd tell you flat out, there's not one you can name that we didn't rip off. So he was being utilized, a black guy being utilized by Mottola to rip off any and everybody on the Sony label. Right. So when we talk, this thing of mass communication is critical today, not like when we were growing up, because like you said, you know, we didn't know what was going on here. You only knew what was going on in your own little enclave. That's right. But now, it's global. That's right. Word gets out like that. And what these people are doing, they're making sure that the negative is promoted.
That's it.
All right? So when people come to this country, and this is another problem even in policing, when they talk about diversity, don't care for the word. You see, we've been here a long time fighting to bring things to a particular level, and people are just coming in here and reaping the rewards while we're still fighting to keep things going. I'm not interested in diversity. I don't care. I don't care if you like it or you don't. The police department is talking about diversity, which means there are fewer black people getting the job. We were the ones that fought. That fought to bring human rights, civil rights, period, to the forefront. A crippled frog and a three-legged parrot has more rights than a black person today. Everybody is coming here and getting rights while black people are being pushed further and further back. So they're now hiring people from other countries to talk about diversity and policing. You know, we're hiring people from here and there and there. I don't want to hear about that. When these people come here with a preconceived notion of what black people are, what you are, and what you're like by virtue of the color of your skin. Why? Because they've been indoctrinated through the internet, through the medium of television and video to think that all black people are thugs. So you understand.
By the music.
But they're using every medium, and this is critical, and we need to understand. That's why when Jada Pinkett Smith says boycott, you need to understand that you cannot enable the person that's stepping on your back.
Right.
We have to stop enabling all of this stuff in terms of how we spend our money, where we spend our money. We had a better sense and a better understanding of who we were during segregation than we do today.
That's right.
There were far more black-owned businesses in the United States in 1900 than there were in 2000. All right? So if a guy like Donald Trump is looking to run for president, you need to understand where your country is going. Because he's being, he doesn't need financing, but he's being supported, not just by the Ku Klux Klan, but white supremacist groups across the country. And they're masked as foundations and different entities for the citizenry of America and all kinds of nonsense, these flowery words, but they're all about white supremacy.
Amen.
So we got to wake up and understand that it ain't got no better.
It's gotten worse.
It's worse because people are more ignorant today of what is going on and what's happening to them than when they were. The fact that we have a black president don't mean a thing. Ain't nothing changed but the date on the calendar. Because they have.
Wait. We can't.
Let me just finish with this. There were enough white people to realize the chicanery of McCain and Palin and all those people and say, well, no, we can't do that. We've got to go this way.
What's going to happen that way this time?
So
with
now
Trump?
with Trump.
Everybody can see through his nonsense. Come on, do you
people-
realize after Trump wins the primaries and he runs for president, everybody's going to see, you see what's happening in this country? And we're going to take over the Senate, the House, and everything else. People are not that stupid
But
in
why
America.
is the Republican Party
You
consistently
mean
putting
people are stupid enough
buffoons
to
up?
vote for Trump and make him president?
Why are they?
Are you kidding?
Why are they consistently
They're
putting these
showing, the
buffoons up?
Republicans are showing how stupid they are.
There is a
new
reason
dawn
why
coming.
they're doing it.
There's a
I'm
new
not
dawn
saying they're
coming.
stupid.
This
There's
is the
a
whole
reason
thing.
why they're doing it.
Graham, you got to see the writing on the wall.
I see.
This is a blessing from God to put Donald Trump in there and doing what he's doing. I think he's set up by the Clintons in the first place. This is a joke. They cannot put that man up there to run for president. They put him up to run for president, and the whole world would be up in arms.
I think that
It's a joke.
In reference to your statement about President Obama, and this, I'm doing a documentary because I disagree about President Obama in terms of he's just there and just a black man just there.
He's doing the best thing he can.
You got to
The blessing
understand.
from
I'm
God.
not knocking him. I'm not knocking Obama.
This is what you got to also understand is that young people his age and younger than him. My sons, I have 2 boys, 13 years old. They never seen a black man in the White House.
That's right.
They don't. My son didn't even know nothing about no Bush until he read it at all.
My sons are older than you, okay?
all they knew,
and I didn't know nothing about a black president until 8 years ago.
At all.
But they've grown up under a black president.
The things that he has done for what he has set his mind to do, the things he has done for. See, one thing about us, when black folks get something or get somebody that's have power, they want the kitchen sink.
No.
They want them to give everything and whatnot. The things he has done, from the first thing that I'm personally that he has done that I'm excited about is that for him visiting a jail. No president has never visited a jail at all to say that, listen, I'll go to you. I'll go to the person that committed a crime, that did something that's paying their debt to society. That's the first thing that I think that he has done.
Wait, excuse me. You got me wrong. You're defending something that doesn't need to be defended.
I'm not saying that
he's speaking from a 40 and
No, I'm not talking about me. What I'm saying
I'm not
is
saying that you're saying
the
that
system itself,
the
Congress of the United States, the way they have
it's going to change.
treated him.
The way his treatment, everything he needed done, he had to do executive action. That's absolutely right. The way he has treated him, the way he has done. But in the sense of him still being the treated, the things that he still was able to accomplish. People forget, when he first became president, you remember that single parents received $350 out of their income tax? That's what he did when he first got there, because it was a surplus in the country. People forget about that. That's what he did when he first got there. Before was no Congress for anything. This is what he champion. These are the things that my kids was at Obama healthcare that he did champion over than somebody else. The things that he has done down to dealing with responding. He took responding to issues that happened, tragedies of the world. Bush, when Katrina happened, Bush was in the sky with preachers and wouldn't come down and touch the people. As soon as something happened, within a week, President Obama was there.
I'm not talking about the president. I'm talking about the system.
I
We need
agree
to
that
understand
the system
that
has
the
been,
people in
let me
Washington,
interject
they're still
this.
working against us.
See, now
he
we
did
have
a great job.
29 talking to 65. There's a whole element of change that's become. See, he doesn't know about that slave mentality that we had suffered from. That slave, that dark light thing that we suffered from, the old and the, I mean, what am I thinking of? I'm thinking of the slave thing.
The 435 years of mental healthy slavery.
And to see a black president for the last 8 years is inspired so many others blacks that we didn't even dream. I'm 74
I
years
met people
old.
that never voted before.
Yeah.
That even wouldn't even register. But because he was running for president, registered to vote and still voting today.
My grandfather was never allowed to vote.
Right? That never did. Young people that were 18 were allowed to vote, but still voting today because they was inspired by
What's
that
going to
election.
happen if Trump runs for president? How many people can we get out there to vote against that whole?
If Trump becomes, if they give him the nomination, then we should be able to be organized as a people, but we have to find the right candidate to support. That's another thing. That's another conversation.
Well,
you have Hillary Clinton, you got Bernie Sanders.
Well, you're going to have Hillary as president and Bernie's running as vice president.
Well,
we don't know. Says who?
No, we
So
don't know.
I just said. I just predicted.
You being a prophet like King, right?
That's right.
You seen the mountain
It's a
top. You
Gilchrist
seen this.
Experience. I mean, what do you want?
She got tricked the last time, and the silver spoon
come
was
on.
snatched out of her mouth.
And last time, and
Bernie is ahead.
She cried at the opportunity.
Right. Bernie is ahead in Iowa and New Hampshire right now.
Yeah,
so
Bernie
who knows what's going to happen
Correct.
in the next few months? You know, once we get through Iowa and New Hampshire, you know, a ball starts rolling. And this would be catastrophic for Hillary if she can't garner the Democratic nomination. All right? Her husband, he's waiting to get back into the mix. You know, and you know how we feel about him and his involvement in the Congo.
Yeah. Well.
You know, not having it. So it's
but
critical.
Let's be real. Black people love, besides President Obama, black people love Bill Clinton. Because they feel that he was the first black-white president, and he was the one that played saxophone. He messed with Monica Lewinsky.
He gave you cocaine.
He gave you
cocaine. No, he gave you crack cocaine.
So folks like Bill Clinton. So they think that and they love Hillary. Believe it or not, New York. To me, New York is a Hillary state because they love Hillary.
I'm going to play a little war on to give us a little spirit here.
Yeah, we need that.
Let's get back to the fact that, you know, I want you to play that war on thing and show you what inspires me about, you know, going to church and getting the spirit in you, right? And we'll come right back at you. Good job.
Good afternoon, National Action Network. We have many speakers, and so I'll be very brief. Yesterday, I had the pleasure of speaking at a MLK event at the Apollo Theater. And after the Apollo Theater event, I got a text message from a young woman who's an activist in this city. And she shared with me in the text message how she really thoroughly enjoyed the comments I made. And then she said something. She said, and I shared this with Reverend Sharpton, she said she kind of felt uncomfortable when I started talking about Jesus at a King event. And it makes me wonder, because when I realize what often happens on this day, beyond a lot of lip service from some, what happens on this day beyond the memorialization of Dr. King is that we have a tendency to decontextualize Dr. King. Dr. King, as many will call him, we would have to say Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. You cannot, as Reverend Sharpton said, separate Dr. King from the faith that gave him the strength, the foresight, and the vision to stand boldly. When Dr. King stood boldly, he did that. I'll be brief, but let me say this. He preached a sermon one time called Guidelines for a Constructive Church. And in that sermon, he lifted this line that I know is familiar to many of us. The Spirit of the Lord is upon me. He has anointed me to bring good news to the poor. He has sent me to proclaim that captives will be released, that the blind will see, that the oppressed will be set free, that this is the year of the Lord's favor. The only way that Dr. King was able to do what he did was because the Spirit of the Lord was upon him. You cannot put your life on the line, sacrifice family, life, livelihood for the sake of a cause you believe in unless the Spirit of the Lord is upon you. For those of us today who would want to be activists, who lead spiritless movements, part of the issue may be that we need to remember the only way you can stand for justice when people begin to sling arrows your direction is when the Spirit of the Lord is upon you. The only way we can stand for justice today is if we trust that the Spirit of the Lord is upon us. And so when people ask you, why do we fight for equity in education, you let them know, because the Spirit of the Lord is upon me. When people want to know, why do you march against mass incarceration, you tell them, because the Spirit of the Lord is upon me. When people want to know, why do you fight against the Supreme Court and their injustice decisions, you tell them, because the Spirit of the Lord is upon me. And if anybody want to know why you will live in spite of all that will come against us in our fight for freedom, justice, and equality, you tell them proudly, quietly, sometimes aggressively, the Spirit of the Lord is upon me.
Reverend Walker, now we have the Spirit of the Lord is upon us.
Yeah.
Amen. See, that's my inspiration. Now you try going to 1 Corinthian Baptist Church on Sundays, man. I get to videotape it between there and convent. I'm there once a month.
Well, you need to come over to Brooklyn.
Oh Lord. Oh, Lord.
Come to Brooklyn.
That's right. We're
That's right. You preach too. That's right.
Samson
yeah, well,
had
we
the
don't have to
Spirit.
do that. You know, that's Graham's territory. I don't go out to Brooklyn.
You know, what he said was so true.
Oh,
Yeah, that's it.
It's so
That's
true.
it.
You know,
can't
people think
exist.
Samson, you see the movie Samson, some big guy. Samson wasn't a
He had the
muscle-bound
Spirit of
guy.
the
Wasn't
Lord.
that?
He was an average
Guy.
guy.
That's right.
Every forerunner of Christ
That's right. Was average.
was an average. The Bible
That's
says
right.
that there was nothing about Jesus that people should want to be around him, hang around. He wasn't no gorgeous-looking dude for the women to lust after,
rags
nothing
on
like
him,
that.
everything.
The man, every forerunner of Jesus, from the Old Testament to the book of Revelation,
There's something
they
wrong.
were simple men. Samson got strong, it says, when the Spirit of the Lord came upon him. Samson wasn't strong all the time.
Sure wasn't.
The Spirit of God's Holy Spirit came upon him
That's right.
to give him the physical strength to do what he did, because you also know in the off hours, Samson had this issue with women.
With it.
Right.
That's right.
He was a regular Joe. And every one of them. And there were different measures of that Spirit that was poured out. You see Elijah and Elisha.
Yep.
All right? The mantle.
The mantle,
There were
that's right.
various portions of the power of that Spirit that have been poured out on different people. The pouring that Paul got, the Nubian, the pour out that he got from the Holy Spirit was different
From what
from what Elijah got.
That's
Well,
right.
let's
See,
hear
but it
from
is
the
about
youth.
the Spirit.
Yeah.
Let's hear from the youth. He has the Spirit of the Lord within you.
Thanks,
Oh,
man. I
yes.
appreciate
Yeah.
it. But I think from the youth perspective, right, there's a major feeling of frustration.
Okay.
So when you're looking at it from the point of a young kid from my borough, the Bronx, in Edenwald Projects, where I was raised.
Well, you're 17. So
Yeah,
you can
17.
speak.
I can speak on that. And you feel like it's just a tireless feeling of constantly being battered and bruised and beaten. The thing that really did inspire me when I went to House of the Lord Church is when I was ushering, and I walked with Michael Brown's mother.
Oh,
And I remember,
wow.
and I remember I was walking with her, and I kept saying, she was right in my arm, and I said, "What do I say to this lady? What do I say to this lady? What do I say to this lady?" I said, "Ms. Brown, I want to thank you for being so strong." And she looks back at me, man, with a little bit of tears in her eyes, and she says that I try. I never forget that. And that's why I work with Rev, that feeling.
Okay.
And there's this.
You get the Spirit of the Lord right there in church. Right?
I believe
Well,
so.
the Spirit
but-
of the Lord came upon you to say that.
No, definitely. And then
Inspired.
and there's certainly a level of anger. But what gives me a lot of inspiration and hope is when I look at the past and I see how much fight and progress has been made. I remember Frederick Douglass once said, we might not get everything we fight for, but we got to fight for everything we get.
That's right. That's right. That's right.
And that's the constant theme. And also, young people have to understand that if we move forward as a coalition, how much progress we can possibly make. We've made progress, and we have to keep on pushing forward.
Right.
Because if we don't, then we're going to be in the arms of Trump. And if we're in the arms of Trump, then, you know, we got to go off to Africa. And Africa ain't that safe
we ain't
either.
going nowhere.
No, I'm playing. No, I'm playing. But I want to make sure that I get this point across. You know, change doesn't happen if you look at it from a negative point of view.
That's right.
If you sit there and you say, you know, that's how it's always going to go. That's not how it's always going to go. If that's what slaves said, we'd still be in that same place. Probably not even. We'll have so much progress that hasn't been made. If that philosophy was taken, we wouldn't have had a black president 50 years later walking across Selma. That's what it is. It's that hope in the face of all defeat, that belief in yourself that I am somebody, that I'm worth something, that even when they say, that even when we say we can't, we say yes we can. That even when they say that our life is a nightmare, we say that we have a dream. That's that constant theme that I feel young people should have, and they do have. If a lot of them do.
Will you be registered to vote for the election?
When I'm 18, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, can you vote?
No, I can't. I'm 17 right now.
Oh, okay.
No, but that's basically what he said, is really having a hindsight of really having who your surroundings are and what you believe in, and having some core values. When I was his age, I was working for a councilman by the name of Charles Barron.
Oh man, what an experience!
And I was
at 17. That's
at
right,
17.
you told me that.
I had just graduated high school at 16. I was in college at 17. But this was because I surrounded myself around someone that wanted to see more than what I have, and I had the potential to be able to be, and I was able to be able to see it. So it was great to be able to do that, to have the experience. But here's a guy who grew up in Brownsville, Brooklyn, who was in the streets, who was a ladies' man. But I decided to change my life around. Nothing drastic happened.
That sounds familiar.
At all. Nothing drastic happened. Nobody got shot, and I didn't do anything.
We gotta go. And I mean, the Spirit of the Lord is in us.
Yes.
And that's what happens at the Gilchrist Experience. You got to get the Spirit. The Gilchrist Experience Spirit.
That's right.
Stop praising that Jesus, right? Hey.
They told me I look
I might get wild over here, so let me just stop.
Right. Well, the God in me loves the God in you, and stay tuned for more of the Spirit of the Lord is with us.
If I don't praise him,
And
the
we're
rocks
going
are
to take
going to
and
cry.
put Donald Trump in his place. Yeah. Send him back to Queen.
No,
He should be in the unemployment line. Trump.